Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for being here today. We're diving once again into the world of old American coins, where tiny copper pennies can hold huge stories and sometimes unbelievable value. Today, we're exploring rare wheat pennies, those classic Lincoln cents that so many people grew up using without ever realizing how valuable some of them can be. A few of these old pennies are worth enough to completely change someone's life, so stay with me all the way to the end, because you might have one of these rare treasures sitting in a drawer, a box from your parents, or an old jar filled with spare change. Let's start with one of the most interesting and surprising coins in the Wheat Penny series, the 1937 Wheat Penny with no mint mark. At first look, it seems like the kind of penny you'd find at the bottom of a pocket or mixed in with old coins you never paid attention to. Nothing special, nothing shiny, just a regular penny. But this little coin carries a story that would shock even experienced collectors. The 1937 penny is part of the famous Lincoln cent series, a design that has been loved for generations. It was created by Victor David Brenner to honor Abraham Lincoln, one of America's most respected presidents. The wheat penny design was used from 1909 to 1958, and the two wheat stalks on the back were meant to show growth, strength, and hard work, values that helped shape the country. Back in 1937, America was still recovering from the Great Depression. People were out of work, families were trying to survive, and every penny mattered. These coins became symbols of hope during a very difficult time. Now let's take a closer look at the coin. On the front, you'll see Lincoln's face. Above him are the words, "In God We Trust." To the left, the word liberty, and to the right, the date 1937. On the back, the two wheat stalks curve around the words 1 cent and United States of America, with E Pluribus Unum printed above. The design is simple but meaningful, showing unity and steady progress. What makes the 1937 penny exciting are the rare errors and unusual versions that were made by accident. These pennies came from 3 different places: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D, and San Francisco with an S. Millions were made, but most were used so much that they became scratched, faded, or damaged. Finding one today in great shape is not easy. Condition is extremely important. A sharp, clean, bright coin can be worth far more than a worn one. Collectors are always searching for examples with strong shine and crisp details, but the real treasures are the error coins. One of the most famous errors is the double die obverse. On these coins, the date or words like Liberty appear doubled because the machine that struck the coin shifted slightly. These doubled letters are clear and easy to see, and they're worth a lot. Another exciting mistake is the off-center strike. This happens when the design lands too far to one side, leaving a blank area on the coin. The more off-center it is while still showing the date, the more valuable it becomes. Some 1937 pennies also show die cracks, which look like raised lines caused by damage to the minting equipment. These small mistakes make each coin unique and more interesting. Even the color matters. When these pennies were new, they had a bright red shine. Over time, many turned dark brown. The coins that still have that original red color are worth the most. The year 1937 also sits in a very important place in history. It was one of the last years before World War II began changing everything: the economy, the workforce, and the metals used in coins. In many ways, this penny represents the end of one era and the beginning of another. So, what should you look for if you want to find a valuable 1937 wheat penny? Check the mint mark first. San Francisco versions with the S mint mark are harder to find in good condition. Then look for doubling on the words and numbers. Look for cracks, unusual marks, or peeling. And notice the color. Bright red coins are always worth more. It's amazing to think that a tiny penny made almost a century ago can hold so much history and value. Each mark tells part of a story. Many people have found rare pennies in old jars, inherited collections, or even in a handful of pocket change. That's the magic of coin collecting. You never know when you might come across something truly special. Now imagine holding a 1937 no mint mark penny that looks almost perfect. The shine is strong, the details are sharp. Maybe it even has a rare minting error. You might be holding something incredibly valuable, something most people will never see. And here's the part everyone waits for: the value. A 1937 wheat penny in perfect uncirculated condition, or one with a rare error like a doubled die, has sold for as much as $95,000. Yes, $95,000 for a single penny. Open those dusty boxes, and check your family's coin collections. You never know, your next big surprise might be sitting right in front of you. Next up, we're moving on to the 1945 wheat penny without a mint mark. At first, it looks like nothing special at all. Just a plain, old penny you might find hiding in a coffee can, a dusty drawer, or mixed in with leftover change. But this tiny coin carries stories from one of the most intense times in American history. And some versions of this penny are worth far more than most people ever expect. So stay with me, because the 1945 penny may surprise you with its hidden value. The world in 1945 was completely different from today. World War II was still raging, and the United States was putting everything it had into the war effort. Metal was badly needed for weapons, tools, airplanes, and machines. Copper played a huge role, yet the mint continued making pennies out of copper that final wartime year. The big switch to steel pennies didn't happen until later. That means the 1945 penny is one of the last true copper wheat cents made before major wartime changes took place. This gives the coin a special place in history. It marks the end of an era, a moment right before America stepped into a new chapter. Looking at the design, the front features Abraham Lincoln's portrait, just like many of us remember seeing throughout our lives. Above his head reads "In God We Trust." On the left is liberty, and on the right is the date, 1945. There is no mint mark here because it was made in Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the familiar wheat ears that gave these coins their nickname. The two curved stalks surround the words 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum at the top. The design is simple, but in 1945 it carried deep meaning, unity, hope, and the strength of the American people during the final months of the war. Millions of 1945 pennies were made, but only a small number have special minting mistakes that give them serious value. One of the most famous is the double die error. On these coins, the letters and numbers show a clear doubling effect because the die shifted during the strike. If you spot thick, shadow-like doubling in Liberty or In God We Trust, you could be looking at something very valuable. Another exciting error is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin doesn't sit exactly where it should, causing part of the design to land off to the side. The more off-center the coin is, while still showing the date, the more collectors are willing to pay. There are also die cracks, which look like tiny raised lines running across the surface. These happen when the die used to strike the coin becomes damaged. Each crack makes the penny unique, and collectors love these one-of-a-kind pieces. And then there's one of the rarest surprises of all. A few 1945 pennies were struck on steel blanks by mistake. These were meant for later years, so any genuine 1945 steel cent is extremely rare and extremely valuable. But even without errors, the condition of the coin matters a lot. Most 1945 pennies spent decades in pockets, jars, coin cups, and cash drawers. They show scratches, dents, stains, and fading. These worn examples usually aren't worth much, but the few that survived in beautiful condition, bright red copper, sharp designs, strong shine, those are special. Coins graded MS66 or MS67 can bring in incredible prices. Color is a major factor too. Red coins are the most desirable, followed by red-brown, and then brown. The closer the coin looks to how it looked the day it was made, the higher the value climbs. What makes the 1945 penny so powerful is its emotional story. Imagine holding a penny that was minted while American soldiers were packing for war, while families were rationing food and saving scrap metal, and while the whole country was working together. The coin becomes more than copper. It becomes a tiny piece of history you can hold between your fingers. Collectors love coins like this because they're more than money. They represent a time, a struggle, a memory, and sometimes they represent lucky discovery. So don't overlook 1945 penny if you find one. Look carefully at its shine. Watch for doubling. Check the edges for cracks or odd marks. Study the color. You might be holding something far more valuable than you ever believed. And now, the part everyone waits for, the value reveal. A 1945 wheat penny in the highest uncirculated condition, or one with a dramatic minting error, has sold for as much as $90,000. Yes, $90,000 for a single penny. A coin that once bought candy can now be worth as much as a luxury car. That is the magic of coin collecting. History, mystery, and value all wrapped up in one small piece of copper. So keep searching, treasure hunters. The next rare penny could be sitting in your home right now. Next up is a coin that most people never look twice at, yet it holds a story that can send a shock through any collector's heart. It's the 1952 wheat penny with a D mint mark. At first, it looks just like any other old penny. Brown, simple, worn, something you'd expect to find in a pocket or an old jar of forgotten change. But this little coin has surprises most people never expect. And some versions of this penny, especially rare Denver errors in top condition, have reached prices that almost sound unreal. Let's go back for a moment to the early 1950s. America was changing fast. The war had ended. Families were growing. People were rebuilding their lives. The mint in Denver, marked with that little D under the date, was working day and night to keep up with the rising economy. Millions of pennies were struck in 1952 and most of them went straight into everyday use. People spent them on groceries, newspapers, bus rides, soda machines, and everything in between. No one ever imagined that a few of these pennies would one day become highly prized treasures. Before we reveal the twists and turns behind the value, let's look at the coin itself. The front shows the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, the same portrait Americans have seen for over 100 years. Above him are the words "In God We Trust." To the left is liberty, and to the right is the date, 1952. Right under the date, you'll see a small D, the Denver Mint mark, showing where this coin came from. On the back, the story continues with the classic wheat ears design. Two tall wheat stalks curve around the words 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum above. This design, used from 1909 to 1958, is simple yet powerful. To many people today, it brings back memories of childhood, collecting coins, or getting change from grocery stores decades ago. But the simple design is not why this coin made it into your top 5 list. The real excitement comes from something else: the condition, the rare varieties, and the unexpected mistakes that slipped through the Denver Mint. Most 1952 pennies are common. Worn-down pieces, especially brown coins, have only small collector value. But the rare ones, the untouched, bright red examples, those are the coins that make collectors sit up straight. A sharp, clean 1952 penny with strong luster is already valuable. But when that same coin has a rare mint error, that's when things get really interesting. Denver pennies from the early 1950s are known for die cracks, misaligned dies, off-center strikes, and sometimes double details. These errors weren't planned. They were accidents, tiny slips in the minting process that ended up creating coins that collectors now fight to own. Some 1952 pennies show doubling on liberty, or "In God We Trust." Others show cracks that run across the coin's surface like tiny raised lightning bolts. Some have off-center strikes where part of the design is pushed toward the edge, leaving a blank space. And in very rare cases, there are coins with clipped planchets, where a small section of the penny is missing because of a cutting mistake during production. To collectors, errors are not flaws, they are treasures. But the biggest factor of all is the grade, the condition of the coin. Most 1952 D pennies were used until they were nearly smooth. Coins with scratches, discoloration, heavy wear, or spotting are worth little. But those early examples that were saved by accident, tucked away in drawers or coin rolls before they ever touched circulation, those are the stars. A 1952 wheat penny in clean, bright red condition can be extremely hard to find. Some have survived in grades like MS65, MS66, or even MS67. And higher grades mean higher prices, sometimes far higher than most collectors expect. Imagine this. Someone cleaning out an old box from the 1950s finds a small envelope with a few pennies tucked inside. They open it, maybe not expecting much, and suddenly the shine hits them. A bright, glowing penny untouched for 70 years. The D mint mark stands out. The luster is strong. And the coin looks almost new. Moments like that have happened before. And every time, the reaction is the same: shock, excitement, and disbelief. So what should you look for if you find a 1952 D penny? Check the color. Bright red is the best. Red-brown is good. Brown is common but still collectible. Look for sharp hair details on Lincoln. Look for clean wheat stalk lines on the back. Denver pennies from the early 1950s are known for die cracks, misaligned dies, off-center strikes, and sometimes double details. These errors weren't planned. They were accidents, tiny slips in the minting process that ended up creating coins that collectors now fight to own. Some 1952 pennies show doubling on liberty, or "In God We Trust." Others show cracks that run across the coin's surface like tiny raised lightning bolts. Some have off-center strikes where part of the design is pushed toward the edge, leaving a blank space. And in very rare cases, there are coins with clipped planchets, where a small section of the penny is missing because of a cutting mistake during production. To collectors, errors are not flaws, they are treasures. But the biggest factor of all is the grade, the condition of the coin. Most 1952 D pennies were used until they were nearly smooth. Coins with scratches, discoloration, heavy wear, or spotting are worth little. But those early examples that were saved by accident, tucked away in drawers or coin rolls before they ever touched circulation, those are the stars. A 1952 wheat penny in clean, bright red condition can be extremely hard to find. Some have survived in grades like MS65, MS66, or even MS67. And higher grades mean higher prices, sometimes far higher than most collectors expect. Imagine this. Someone cleaning out an old box from the 1950s finds a small envelope with a few pennies tucked inside. They open it, maybe not expecting much, and suddenly the shine hits them. A bright, glowing penny untouched for 70 years. The D mint mark stands out. The luster is strong. And the coin looks almost new. Moments like that have happened before. And every time, the reaction is the same: shock, excitement, and disbelief. So what should you look for if you find a 1952 penny? Check the color. Bright red is the best. Red-brown is good. Brown is common but still collectible. Look for sharp hair details on Lincoln. Look for clean wheat stalk lines on the back. And check for errors, doubling, cracks, off-center strikes, anything that looks unusual. Now picture the rarest example of all. A 1952 penny with full red luster, no spots, no scratches, no fading, and a strong error, like bold doubling or a dramatic off-center strike. A coin that looks like it was made yesterday, even though it's more than 70 years old. Only a tiny number of coins like that exist. Collectors hunt for them. Dealers trade them. And when one appears at auction, the room goes silent. And now, it's time for the number that everyone waits for. A top-grade 1952 Wheat penny, untouched and glowing with bright red luster, paired with a rare mint error, has been valued at up to $75,000. Next up, we're taking a close look at the 1947 Wheat penny without a mint mark. Now, at first glance, especially when you see one with that dark, almost black shade on the surface, it might look like a coin that's too worn or too damaged to matter. A lot of people would probably ignore a penny like that. But don't be too quick to judge it. This coin comes from a time when America was rebuilding, and some versions of this little penny can be worth far more than anyone expects. The year 1947 was an important moment in American history. World War II had ended not long before, and the country was changing fast. Soldiers were returning home, families were growing again, and the economy was shifting. The mint was producing huge amounts of coins to help the country move forward. The 1947 penny from Philadelphia, which has no mint mark, was one of those coins. And even though millions were made, only a small number survived in truly special condition. That's what makes this penny interesting. Let's take a good look at the design first. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln's portrait. It's the same portrait Americans have seen for over a century. Above him, the words "In God We Trust." On the left side is Liberty, and on the right, the date, 1947. There's no mint mark under the date because Philadelphia didn't use one back then. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the classic wheat ears, the two curved stalks around 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum. On top. It's a simple design, but for many people, it brings back memories of childhood, old candy prices, and the way coins used to look before everything became modern. Now, let's talk about that black shade you mentioned. Many 1947 pennies develop a dark, almost black surface over time. This usually comes from oxidation, basically, the copper reacting with air, moisture, or something it touched. While heavy darkening usually lowers the value, there are times when the coin underneath still has strong details. And if that dark tone wasn't caused by harsh cleaning, burns, chemicals, or damage, the coin can still be collectible. Some collectors even like the darker tone as long as the details are sharp. But the real excitement comes from the rare errors and special varieties. Some 1947 pennies have doubling on letters or numbers. It's usually light, not dramatic, but any clear doubling on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date can raise the value a lot. There are also off-center strikes, where part of the design is pushed toward the edge. The more off-center it is, while still showing the date, the better. Another thing to look for is die cracks. These look like thin raised lines across the coin, caused when the minting die began to break. Each crack is different, which makes each coin unique. Some 1947 pennies even show lamination flaws, spots where the metal surface looks like it's peeling or splitting. These are rare and very collectible if the coin is otherwise well preserved, but as always, condition matters the most. A lot of 1947 pennies were used for years, picked up scratches, nicks, and heavy wear. That's why finding sharp details, even under a dark shade, is important. The best coins are the ones with strong hairlines on Lincoln's portrait, clear wheat lines on the back, and no major damage. Color also matters. Collectors grade pennies as red, red-brown, or brown. A dark or black penny usually fits into the brown category. Brown coins can still be valuable if they are clean and well struck. But the brightest red examples, the ones that still shine after all these years, are the ones that can bring the highest prices. Just imagine holding a 1947 penny that somehow escaped decades of wear. Maybe someone saved it the year it was made. Maybe it sat forgotten in a small envelope or box. Maybe it was tucked away by a soldier returning home, stored with other keepsakes. Whatever the reason, Untouched examples are extremely hard to find today. That's what makes this coin so interesting. It's not just about the metal. It's about where it came from, who used it, and how it survived this long. Every small scratch and shade tells a story from more than 75 years ago. So if you come across a 1947 penny, even one with a darker, blackish surface, take a closer look. Check the details. Look for doubling, cracks, or off-center designs. Look at how sharp the lines are. Because you might be holding something far more valuable than a simple 1-cent coin. And now for the moment everyone waits for, the value. A 1947 wheat penny without a mint mark, in the highest uncirculated grades or with a rare mint error, has reached prices between $72,000 and $75,000, with some special examples pushing even higher into the low $70,000 plus range. Yes, a penny that once sat in someone's spare change could now be worth as much as a luxury car. That's the magic of wheat pennies. History, mystery, and shocking value hiding inside the simplest of coins. So keep checking those jars, boxes, and old wallets. Next up, the 1955 wheat penny without a mint mark. Now, this coin may look simple, just another old brown penny that most people would ignore, but this little piece of copper has one of the wildest stories in American coin history. And what's hidden inside this penny has shocked collectors for more than half a century. Many people have seen a 1955 penny and never knew anything special about it. That's the fun part. This coin doesn't shout for attention. It doesn't sparkle or look rare. It's quite ordinary, almost too ordinary, but behind that normal appearance is something most collectors only dream about. Something so famous, so rare, and so valuable that people today still search for this penny in old jars, drawers, and coin rolls hoping to get lucky. Let's step back to the year 1955. The United States Mint was under pressure. Machines were running fast, workers were tired, and thousands of pennies had to be made every single hour. In all that rush, something happened, something no one noticed at first, but it changed coin history forever. Before we get into the big twist, let's talk about what the coin looks like. On the front, you have Abraham Lincoln's face, the same classic portrait millions of Americans have seen their whole lives. Above him sits "In God We Trust." To the left is Liberty. To the right, the date, 1955, with no mint mark because it was made in Philadelphia. On the back are the two wheat ears curving around 1 cent and United States of America. With E pluribus unum above, it's a simple design, clean, traditional, nothing strange at all, until you take a closer look. One night, during the minting process, a die, the tool used to strike the coins, shifted. It was only off by a tiny amount, but that tiny movement created one of the strongest and most dramatic minting errors in U.S. history. When the coins were struck, the letters and numbers came out doubled, not softly, not faintly, but clearly doubled. Imagine looking at the words "In God We Trust" and seeing them appear twice, stacked one on top of the other. Imagine seeing the word Liberty with thick shadow-like letters. Imagine seeing the date 1955 almost look like it's vibrating on the surface. That was the mistake. And no one caught it in time. These error pennies were released into normal circulation. People spent them like regular pennies. Kids bought candy with them. Adults used them to buy newspapers and groceries. No one knew that these were some of the rarest coins ever to slip into everyday pockets. Fast forward to today, and this coin has become legendary. The 1955 double die penny is one of the most famous mint errors in American history. And collectors will pay serious money to get their hands on a nice one. But not all 1955 pennies are valuable. Most are common, most are worn, most are not part of this rare mistake. Condition also plays a big role. A heavily used 1955 double die might bring a few $100s. But a clean, bright, sharp example, something with strong luster and almost no wear, that's a prize few people ever find. There are also smaller errors that can add even more value. Off-center strikes, small die cracks, peeling copper layers, or odd marks from the minting process can make the coin even more desirable. And just like other wheat pennies, color matters. A bright red version of this coin is always worth more than a brown one. Think about this for a moment. A penny that many people thought was damaged. A penny that some people threw away. A penny that sat in pockets and drawers for years, turned out to be a rare treasure that collectors around the world chase. Now imagine finding one. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table, looking through some old pennies from your childhood, and suddenly noticing something strange. The letters look doubled. The date looks doubled. Your hands start to shake. You hold it up to the light. Could it be? Could you really be holding one of the most famous era coins ever made? Stories like that happen more often than you might think, and that brings us to value, the part everyone waits for. But we won't reveal it just yet. First, picture the perfect version of this coin. Bright red color, sharp details, strong, bold doubling across the entire front. No scratches, no dents. Almost untouched since the day it was minted. Only a tiny number of these perfect survivors exist. They are extremely rare. And when one shows up at an auction, collectors stop everything. People fight for it. Dealers whisper about it. Bidders go higher, and higher, and higher. And now, the number you've been waiting for. A 1955 Wheat Penny without a mint mark, in stunning uncirculated condition with its famous double die error, has sold for as much as $88,000. Yes, $88,000 for a single penny. A coin that once bought a newspaper. A coin that once sat in pockets with lint and keys. A coin that someone might have dropped on the sidewalk without a second thought. That is the magic of this hobby. The shock, the mystery, the excitement of finding value in something so small, so everyday, so forgotten, and yet so rare. So keep watching this series, because the next coins only get wilder. And who knows, the next penny you touch might be worth more than you ever imagined. Next and finally, we've reached the last coin in our top 5 Wheat Penny series, and you'll want to lean in close for this one. This is the 1957 Wheat Penny with a D mint mark. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than your everyday 1-cent coin. It's a warm brown color, simple design, smooth edges, nothing flashy. But this ordinary-looking penny hides a level of rarity and value that almost no one expects. And by the time we reach the end of this story, you'll understand why some collectors are willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars for the right 1957 D penny. Let's travel back for a moment to the year 1957. America was booming. Cars were big, families were growing, and the Denver Mint, represented by that little D under the date, was working non-stop. That D mint mark is important. It tells us this coin came from the Denver Mint, a mint known for producing huge numbers of pennies each year. But at the same time, Denver was also known for letting small mistakes slip through, little errors, tiny imperfections, and sometimes those tiny imperfections turn an ordinary penny into something rare. Before we dive into the surprises, let's look at the coin's design. On the front is Abraham Lincoln's portrait, as steady and familiar as ever. Above him are the words "In God We Trust." To the left is Liberty, and to the right is the year 1957 with that small D mint mark below it. That mint mark might be small, but it matters. It tells collectors exactly where the coin came from, and it can make a huge difference in the coin's value. On the back, you see the classic wheat design, 2 curved wheat stalks around 1 cent and United States of America, with the pluribus unum on top. The design is simple, clean, and brings many older collectors straight back to their childhood. It's one of the reasons these coins remain so loved today. But here's where things start to get interesting. In 1957, the Denver Mint produced wheat pennies very quickly. Speed can lead to mistakes: misaligned dies, weak strikes, doubled letters, cracked dies, clipped planchets, and off-center impressions. And for collectors, those mistakes aren't flaws, they're treasures. Some 1957 pennies show doubling on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date. Others have die cracks that run across Lincoln's portrait like tiny raised lines. Some are struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. And extremely rare examples even show signs of broken dies or planchet defects. The Denver Mint had a reputation for these accidents, and that's part of what makes the D mint mark so exciting to collectors. But even more important than the mint mark is the condition. In coin collecting, the condition is everything. Most 1957 pennies were used heavily. They slid through pockets, cash drawers, and kids' piggy banks. They picked up scratches, faded color, dirt, dents, everything that lowers value. A normal worn 1957 penny is common. Millions exist. But the rarest versions are the ones that survived almost untouched. Bright, glowing red examples with sharp details, no spots, and no handling marks are extremely difficult to find. These top-grade coins, especially ones with errors, are almost like time capsules. They look as if they came straight off the minting machine yesterday, even though they're more than 65 years old. Imagine someone opening an old envelope from the 1950s, expecting nothing special, and suddenly seeing a bright, shining Lincoln cent with the strongest luster they've ever seen. The D mint mark is sharp. The wheat lines on the back look brand new. Maybe there's even a dramatic minting error that makes the coin one of a kind. These are the coins collectors dream about. These are the coins that stop people cold. Now picture the rarest form of all, a 1957 Wheat penny in nearly perfect red condition, untouched, full of shine, with a powerful error like a doubled die or a bold off-center strike. Only a handful of coins like that exist in the entire world. When one of these shows up, collectors react instantly. Auction houses know it's something special. Bidders raise their paddles. Prices climb fast. The room grows quiet. And now, we come to the part everyone has been waiting for, the value. But we're not talking about a few dollars, or a few hundred. The greatest examples of the 1957 Wheat penny, those with flawless color, perfect condition, and rare minting errors, have been valued between $87,000 and $95,000. Yes, you heard that right. Up to $95,000 for a single Wheat penny from 1957. A penny that once bought candy now sells for more money than some people make in an entire year. Thank you for joining this journey through America's most surprising and valuable Wheat pennies. If you enjoyed the hunt, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. There are many more coins out there with secrets waiting to be discovered. Your next big treasure could be sitting in your pocket right now.